Alluded that the Edaiken of Uselu, who is the crown prince, is a member of a group of kingmakers. The fact is that there is actually no group that are kingmakers in Benin. We don't have it in our culture. Because in Benin tradition, a king is born and not made or chosen by any individual.
Thanks for clicking on this channel. Please subscribe to FO's blog history and click on the notification button so that whenever we upload a new video you will be notified. Oba of Benin corrected some misconceptions about Benin norms, traditions, cultures, and history. Oba of Benin made this assertion while launching a book on the Benin monarchy, an anthology of Benin history. A book which is popularly known as the Benin Red Book. According to the Oba, there is a common error in poor translation of expression in the Benin language, associated with our cultural norms and practices. He was saying this based on an interview in a documentary on the Benin monarchy, televised on electronic media. That there were inaccurate and poor narration of our history bordering on distortion of our historical facts. For example, in that documentary, it was stated that Edaiken is a member of kingmakers in Benin Kingdom. The fact is that there is no group that is referred to as kingmakers in Benin. We don't have it in our culture. Because in Benin tradition the king is born, not made or chosen by any individual or group. But there is a group which is referred to as Huzama, or the Edaiken, whose function is crowning the new Oba at the right time, headed by Chief Aliha, the Oba stated. Please sit down and watch as the Oba of Benin explains everything.
I would like to use this opportunity to appreciate the work and support of the press, the electronic and print media since the first anniversary of my ascension to the throne. However, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I crave your indulgence to further appreciate in some of the national television stations for airing a documentary only a couple of days ago, which I believe was meant to give publicity to this book launch, which actually lent credence in a very strange manner to the very essence of the compilation of this book. The essence of publishing this book, particularly at this point in our history, is obvious in many respects. One of which is the common error of poor translation of expressions in Benin language associated with our cultural norms and practices. I observed in the recent documentary held in the electronic and social media, where interviews were conducted that featured inaccurate and poor narration of our history bordering on distortion of historical facts. An example is that from that documentary, it was alluded that the Edaiken of Uselu, who is the crown prince, is a member of a group of kingmakers. The fact is that there is actually no group that are kingmakers in Benin. We don't have it in our culture. Because in Benin tradition, a king is born and not made or chosen by any individual. This group is referred to as Uzamani, or the Edion in bracket, Edion, headed by Chief Olia, who merely performs the function of crowning the new Oba at the right time. Olia is in our midst, I believe, so he's still functioning there. In that same documentary, another narration, I'm sure many of you might have seen it. It was all over the news. It meant well, no doubt, it meant well, but we needed to correct some of these distortions. In that same documentary, another narration was that the Edaiken was referred to as a duke. In bracket, in the translation to Benin language, a nogie. The crown prince is not a nogie in our tradition. The Edaiken is not a duke, but the crown prince presiding over a territory in the kingdom called Uselu at the right time when the time comes, who derives his authority directly from the Oba of Benin and has power to confer chieftaincy titles on persons as prince of the palace of Edaiken of Uselu. Again, it draws the power from the Oba of Benin, from the palace in Benin, the main Oba's palace. Further distortion of our history was the chief stating that the eldest son of the Oba is sent to Uselu to hold forth for Edaiken Uselu. Wrong. The eldest son was strategically sent to hold forth for the recalcitrant subject of the then Oba called Edaiken. This is the history. Who was lured into battle outside the kingdom in order to be rid of his insubordination. Hence the name or title Edaiken, shortened to Edaiken. I believe this historical record is also in this red book we just launched, or we're about to launch. The eldest son of the Oba eventually officially assumes the traditional office of Edaiken Uselu. Put differently, the eldest son of the Oba is Edaiken Uselu. So he's not holding forth for Edaiken Uselu. He is Edaiken Uselu by definition. Again, is the narration that was made that everything begins and ends in the palace. The correct position, I think this was an attempt to explain what Egwai say, the daughter, Egwai say. In an attempt to correct it, this explanation was given in that same documentary. Again, I don't think it was quite the correct position. The correct position is that if there are issues among the subjects out there, or citizens, communities, villages, towns, they on their own volition approach the palace to seek for what Captain Okyoba Dausa Ogoyokumbo made earlier referred to as conflict resolution. Seek for the resolution of these disputes, and whatever resolution is approved by the palace is final and is usually never disputed, subject to, of course, further review or any review in light of contradicting information, coming up, which in Benin is referred to as Egwai, literally translated to all matters end at the palace, not all matters begin and end at the palace. So I thought I should clarify some of these issues. Now, permit me the little immodesty and unequivocally declaring that the book we have assembled here to unveil the Benin monarchy, an anthology of Benin history, aka the Red Book,